So as many of you will already know, ADA has just been listed on Coinbase Pro, and there is a lot of hype around the event, and the short-term market reaction was as expected, and the news was followed by a sharp increase in the price by around 18%. But if you've watched this channel before, you'll know that I'm a long-term orientated investor, and that I'm not all that concerned with short-term price movement, but rather I want to know what the long-term, structural and lasting impacts of any given event will be. And in this case, ADA being listed onto Coinbase Pro has a number of fairly substantial long-term benefits which will likely increase the real value and market price of ADA over time. But to understand these benefits, we first have to understand what Coinbase Pro actually is, who is using a platform like this, and how they are using it. So we've all heard of Coinbase, which is a standard market-leading digital coin exchange that enables around 43 million users access to crypto markets, dealing with quite literally hundreds of billions of dollars worth of transaction volume. And Coinbase Pro, which is where ADA has been listed, is an associated platform which is also geared toward retail investors. But the difference is Coinbase Pro tends to be used by more experienced investors who have larger trading volume. And the reason for that is because Coinbase Pro offers better API, which effectively gives more up-to-date real-time market information. And crucially, Coinbase Pro offers lower trading fees, but the economy of scale only begins to kick in at a monthly trading volume of $10,000. And so this means that the type of people who are going to be using Coinbase Pro are on average going to be fairly large volume traders, some with accounts worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and many with accounts worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so we're talking a huge pool of potential investment capital. And ADA being listed onto this exchange is improving the liquidity and access that people have to the crypto. The people who built the Coca-Cola company did so with one fundamental principle in mind. They wanted a bottle of Coke to be within reaching distance of every person in the world. Not literally, of course, but they wanted everybody in the world to be able to access Coca-Cola and purchase their products without it being hard or impractical to do so. And they did this because they knew that if Coca-Cola wasn't in that position, people would simply choose an alternative product. And if we look at the fiat currency markets today, the same type of monopoly exists here. The dollar or the pound or the euro are only where they are today because of one simple thing. They are the most accessible, integrated and widespread currencies in their territories, and they have an effective monopoly which is far more intense than that of Coca-Cola. But the way that I view the situation is that slowly and surely cryptocurrencies like ADA are being listed onto more and more exchanges, and in my view we are headed toward an eventuality of almost completely seamless and universal acceptance. Only that ADA is non-inflationary and in many ways more efficient than fiat. And by the way, if you're an ADA investor or just a Cardano fan, I want to ask you to subscribe to the channel so that we can keep growing and I can spend more time producing videos like this. Anyway, even just 2 years ago it was much harder to buy ADA than it is today, and I think that with every listing and every organization that partners with or accepts ADA, the burden of actually accessing ADA will be reduced. You see, it's not hard to use ADA, it's almost instantaneous and practically free. But what is hard is to gain access to ADA. We have to think in terms of the general population. As crypto investors, we may not think of it as hard to buy or sell ADA at will, but to the average person the prospect of having to sign up to a brokerage, go through a number of authorization steps and all to use something which they aren't all that familiar with, and is only accepted at a number of places isn't going to be very appealing. But it also means that if ADA does get to a point of near universal use, we are very early right now. The market is still very fractured and it isn't easy for the average person to buy or use ADA. And by the way, I think that it's only reasonable to assume that as accessibility improves, so too will investment into ADA. Think of it like this. In the same way that people buy so many Coca-Cola products because of their ease of access, the pound or the US dollar is also used with an even more intense monopoly. But the thing is, people have forgotten that these currencies are not the only option. Every listing like this on Coinbase Pro is one door that is unlocked, opening ADA to more and more people. And it's not going to be an overnight process as it's incremental and it happens slowly. But with each listing like this, billions of dollars of new capital now have access to ADA which didn't before. And I think that it's reasonable to assume that a percentage of that capital, be it big or small, is likely to be invested into ADA. And not only investment capital either, but as it becomes easier to use ADA, I think that its adoption will likely increase as well at an organizational level, where more businesses are accepting and using ADA, which means that their customers will now have a good reason to use ADA on a continuing basis, and that provides a steady source of demand and value to ADA and the Cardano platform. Anyway, that's all for this video. If you enjoyed and would like to see more content like this, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.